Mikhail Massa video, subscribe and share. But what about the south of this margin of Saharan contacts? In the reign of Jean II of Portugal, nearly 700 Jews were taken from their kin and deported to the island of São Tomé on the west coast of Africa. This island is close to Nigeria, Cameroon, and Gabon. Escaping from São Tomé, the Jews emigrated to the coast of Angola between 1484 and 1499. They must have settled in several Portuguese colonies and over the centuries mixed with the indigenous black population. Near the Congo in Gabon in 1776, black Jews, called Bavumbu, or even Mavambo, Mayamba, May or Mavumbu, lived on the coast of Luango by the river named the Rio Muni. It would seem that they adopted Christianity at the same time as maintaining their Judaism. By 1847, David Livingstone discovered a group of educated blacks living in the interior some 200 miles from the coast of Luando. These blacks were called the Jews of Angola. They were good merchants, learned easily, and had a knowledge of Portuguese law and history. They were often employed as clerks and writers. For Livingstone, there was no doubt but that these people were the descendants of those who had been deported from Portugal in the 15th century. Other evidence supports his intuition. In Savage Africa, Winwood Reade writes of having met in Guinea blacks claiming to be Portuguese around 1864. Closer to our time, Dr. J. Kreppel noted sometime after the First World War that a large community of black Jews existed in the interior of Dahomey. These Jews had the 5 books of Moses written on old parchment in Hebrew. p. 232. Winwood Reade's account of a black Portuguese presence in 1864 West Africa is also mentioned by Sir Richard Francis Burton in his book, A Mission to Jalil, King of Dahomey, 1864 AD. He writes the following about an entire congregation of Negro Portuguese being kidnapped and sold into the transatlantic slave trade. Some of the kidnapping tales that still linger on this coast show the straits into which, at times, men were driven for a cargo. At Anobam, where the people are Negro Portuguese, they are ever looking forward to hearing Mass from the mouth of a priest. A Spaniard learning this, dressed up a pair of ecclesiastics, landed them, and whilst the function was proceeding, seized the whole congregation, and carried them triumphantly to market. Some of the kidnapping tales that still linger on this coast show the straits into which, at times, men were driven for a cargo. At Anobam, where the people are Negro Portuguese, they are ever looking forward to hearing Mass from the mouth of a priest. A Spaniard learning this, dressed up a pair of ecclesiastics, landed them, and whilst the function was proceeding, seized the whole congregation, and carried them triumphantly to market. p. 23. The entire book is an account of the author's experiences in West Africa. This Negro Portuguese congregation was kidnapped from West Africa, in the middle of worship service, and sold into the transatlantic slave trade. There are some 4 ajudo hereabouts, also called by the old de Souza, meaning Deus me ajudo, God helped me. Some wrongly write ajudo. Others prefer ajuda, help, aid, the full phrase being com ajuda de Deus, hence the ajuda palace, in Portugal. From directions of letters, I believe ajuda and ayuda to be the popular Portuguese and Brazilian names for Wida, p. 104. A list of names from West Africa. The historical significance of these names is still to be determined, but the name de Souza is a common occurrence among older documents dealing with Portugal and the Portuguese. The following is a list of the Portuguese, Brazilians, mulattoes, and civilized Africans now remaining at the Great Mart. 5 Por. Tuguese, viz. Antonio Llera de Silva, established at Wida, Grand Popo, and Let Him Fall. Francisco de Souza Maciel. Ignacio de Souza Magalhães, Wida, Porto Novo, and Badagry. Jacinto Joaquim Rodrigues, Wida and Porto Novo. J. Suarez Pereira, Wida and Agui. 14 Brazilians. Francisco Antonio Monteiro. F. J. Medeiros, now at Agui, some say he is a Portuguese, born in the United States. Francisco Olimpio Silva, at Porto Seguro. Marco Borges Ferraz. João Pinheiro de Souza, commonly called Taparica. Guliel Martins do Nascimento. Marcelino dos Martins Silva. Ricardo Augusto Amadei, he speaks French and English. Joao Victor Angelo. A walk round Wida. 7-0. Weavers engaged in cotton or in palm oil, the dolo. Meter of the slave trade, or in nothing. M. Martinez had his good points, he was always courteous and hospitable, even to his bitterest enemies. The English, Morver, to his praise be it spoken, he. Jose Francis dos Santo, commonly called Alfayate, i.e., the tailor. Etc., etc., etc. Burton, Sir Richard Francis. p. 191. A mission to Jalil, king of Dahomey, with notices of the so-called Amazons, the grand customs, the yearly customs, the human sacrifices, the present state of the slave trade, and the Negro's place in nature, volumes 1-2. p. 23.